3 years, it's been 3 years since I stood frozen in Nashville International, watching Matt disappear behind the frosted glass, dragging his suitcase toward a life that no longer had room for me. 3 years since I clutched the rolled-up sketch he pressed into my hands like it was the last tether to the man I was too terrified to become. Now I'm 26, living in a narrow shotgun house in Bywater, New Orleans. Rent's cheap, walls are thin, and on Saturday nights the second-line brass band marching down Chartres rattles my windows until 2 in the morning. I love it here. It's loud, messy, alive, everything my old life in Alabama never let me be. I'm a junior attorney at a public interest law firm downtown. We fight evictions, represent queer kids kicked out by their families, help immigrant families stay together. Every time I stand up in court arguing someone's right to live openly without fear, I feel the ghost of that Vanderbilt dorm room pressing on my chest. I'm doing the work I once wished someone had done for me, back when I was still pretending. Coming out cost me everything I thought I couldn't live without. My father, Judge Harlan Caldwell, didn't yell when I told him. He just sat there, the way he does on the bench when a defendant says something unforgivable. Then, in the same measured courtroom voice, he said, "You are no longer my son," and hung up. Mom cried for weeks, but she still mails birthday cards with a crisp 20 tucked inside. No return address. No one else in the family has reached out. The group chat quietly removed me. It hurt like hell. But the morning after Dad disowned me, I woke up and the air felt different. Lighter. Like I'd spent my whole life breathing through a straw and someone finally yanked it away. The only thing I carried with me from that old life, besides the guilt, was the sketch Matt gave me at the airport. Me asleep, cheeks flushed with fever, face relaxed for the first time. I had it framed the first week I moved here. It hangs above the little fireplace in the living room, the most prominent spot in the whole house. Most nights I come home, drop onto the sagging couch, pour a cheap bourbon, and stare up at it. I wonder where Matt is in old, beautiful Florence. Does he still streak his hair that ridiculous lime green? Does he still bite his lower lip when he's concentrating on a painting? Does he still smile at the world like it can't hurt him? I haven't dated anyone seriously since that day. There have been a few hookups in the bars on Frenchman Street, some hot nights with gorgeous guys I met on apps. But I always slip out before they wake up. I can't let anyone in. Not because I don't want to, because I still owe someone a real, face-to-face, decent apology. I owe Matt. I've rehearsed that apology 1,000 times, on the streetcar, in the steam room after the gym, in the sticky middle of the night heat of New Orleans. But he cut off all contact. Phone number dead. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, gone like he never existed. All I have left is the sketch and the regret that keeps growing. I know I've changed. I'm out. I help other people live their truth. But deep down I'm still that scared kid who pushed away the only person who ever really saw him, just because I couldn't admit I wanted to be loved too. The sketch still hangs there, watching me every day. Finally waking up, he wrote in the bottom corner. I've woken up some, but not all the way. Not until I find a way to say the sorry he deserves to hear. The plane touched down at Perettala on a crystal-clear May morning. I stepped through customs, dragging my small suitcase, and the Italian air hit me like a warm embrace. Hints of espresso, rapid-fire Italian chatter, sunlight so golden New Orleans could never match it. I was in Florence for work, a 4-day international human rights law conference sponsored by a European NGO. The office sent me because I'm the only one on staff who speaks decent Italian, picked up from months of opera and Fellini films I watched to forget Matt. Ironic. The conference was held in an old palazzo near the Arno, packed with lawyers, activists, and academics from everywhere. I presented on queer rights in the American South, answered questions, handed out business cards, smiled on cue. I did fine. But every night after the receptions, I wandered the narrow cobblestone streets alone, trying not to think about the fact that Matt lived in this very city. Day 3 was free, no schedule, no meetings. I decided to just walk. I crossed Ponte Vecchio, past the glittering jewelry shops, then drifted into quieter Oltrarno. Narrow alleys, ivy-covered walls, the smell of fresh bread from tiny bakeries. I ducked into a small gallery on Via dei Serragli, one of those independent spots locals actually visit. Inside it was cool and hushed. Just the slow whir of a ceiling fan and a few people murmuring. I drifted through the first rooms, abstracts, modern portraits, nothing special. Then I stepped into the last room. And everything stopped. On the main wall hung a large oil painting, almost 2 meters wide. Light from the skylight poured down, making the colors glow like they were breathing. It was a dorm room, I knew it instantly. Neat desk on the left with perfectly stacked law books, chair pushed in. On the right, floor littered with drawing paper, paint tubes rolling around, jeans slung over a chair, an invisible line of tape dividing the space. Window flung open, golden sunlight flooding in, breeze lifting the curtains. But the bed on the right, Matt's bed, was empty. Sheets tucked tight, pillow flat, like no one had ever slept there. I stood frozen, heart hammering. The way he layered warm golds, oranges, earthy reds for depth. The way the light caressed every small detail. It was unmistakable. It was Matt. I stepped closer, eyes locked on the bottom right corner. Tiny signature, familiar brushstroke, Matteo V. Matteo. His new artist name. He'd really become part of this city. I don't know how long I stood there, minutes, maybe half an hour. A young gallery employee with a ponytail came over and asked softly in Italian if I wanted information about the piece. I nodded, voice rough. She handed me a brochure for an upcoming show, Matteo V's first solo exhibition at a bigger gallery downtown, just a few streets away. Opening tomorrow night. My hand trembled slightly as I took it. I knew I'd go, even if I had no idea what to say, even if he never wanted to see my face again. I had to. 3 years I'd lived with regret and that sketch on my wall back in New Orleans. Now the man who drew it was here, just blocks away. Florence suddenly felt way too small. And for the first time, I felt big enough to face the past I'd been running from. The next evening I stood outside the downtown gallery. Clutching a glass of white wine someone pressed into my hand the moment I walked in. Warm light spilled out, laughter and soft jazz mixing inside. I wore the only dark suit I'd packed, tie knotted tight like a reminder. Stay calm, Simon. I arrived 15 minutes early, but the place was already packed. Stylish Italians, a few obvious American tourists, critics scribbling in notebooks. The walls were covered in mats. No Matteo V's work. Bigger, more mature, but still with that warmth that twisted my gut. Layered colors, light that felt alive, tiny details that made you want to linger. I circled the rooms, pretending to study the art, eyes scanning for one familiar figure. Then I saw him. Matt stood in the center of the main room under soft spotlights, talking to a small group. He seemed taller or maybe just more sure of himself. Hair still a little messy, no more lime streaks, now a natural dark brown, longer, a few strands falling over his forehead. Black dress shirt with sleeves rolled up, tanned forearms, simple leather bracelet. That same wide, warm smile that somehow made the whole room brighter. He was beautiful, weathered, radiant, completely at home here. I stayed in the corner, wine glass trembling slightly. I hadn't decided whether to approach when his gaze swept the crowd and landed on me. Time slowed. No shouting, no explosion of anger, no slow-motion Hollywood moment. Just a long, heavy silence full of recognition. His eyes widened for a second, then steadied. The smile froze, replaced by something unreadable. Not anger, not joy, just acknowledgement. He excused himself from the group and walked toward me slowly. Each step made my pulse spike. When he stopped an arm's length away, I realized I'd been holding my breath. "Simon," he said, voice low and deliberate. Still that soft southern drawl now laced with Italian after 3 years. "Didn't expect to see you here." I swallowed hard. "Hey, Matt. I mean, Matteo." I managed a weak smile. "The show's incredible." "Really?" He nodded, eyes searching mine. "Thanks. You in Florence for work?" "Yeah, human rights law conference. Happened to see the brochure yesterday." I paused. And the dorm room painting. He gave a small, not quite happy smile. Yeah, that one sold already. Collector in Milan. We stood there amid the chatter, like we were in our own bubble. I wanted to say 1,000 things. Sorry. Explanations, are you okay? Are you happy? But it all jammed into one stupid line. You look different. He shrugged lightly. 3 years is a long time. Right then a man approached us. Tall, early 30s, neatly cropped dark hair, perfect gray suit, polished smile. He rested a casual hand on Matt's lower back. Familiar, easy. Matteo, love, they're asking about Luciperta, he said in warm Tuscan-accented Italian, then turned to me and offered his hand. Hello, I'm Luca. I shook it, trying to keep my voice steady. Simon, old friend of Matteo's from the States. Luca smiled warmly, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Pleasure. Matteo's told me a lot about his Vanderbilt days. Matt glanced at Luca, then back at me. It was clear. Luca wasn't just a friend. He was Matt's person now, the one who shared mornings by the Arno, nights in their Altrarno apartment. I forced a smile. I'm sure he told the flattering version. Luca laughed, clapped Matt lightly on the shoulder, and headed back to the group, leaving us in brief silence. Matt's voice dropped. Luca's an architect. We've been living together almost 2 years. I nodded, swallowing the sharp ache in my chest. He seems great. You happy? He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded softly. Yeah, I'm happy. Simple words, clean cut. While I'd stood still for 3 years, clutching that sketch and my guilt, Matt had moved on. Built a new life with a new man, in a new city. No room left for the scars I gave him. I raised my glass in a silent toast. Good for you, Matt. I mean it. He met my eyes, something softening. Thanks, Simon. We didn't say more. I drifted back to the art. He returned to his guests and Luca. For the rest of the night, I stayed on the edges, watching him from afar, watching him laugh, explain his work, drape an arm around Luca for photos. And for the first time in 3 years, I realized the apology I'd carried might not be for him anymore. It was for me. The opening wound down late. The crowd thinned. Glasses clinked less often. Lights dimmed for cleanup. I lingered in a corner, not wanting to be last to leave, not brave enough to approach Matt again. Luca was busy saying goodbyes. Matt was talking to a local journalist. As I started slipping toward the door, his voice stopped me. Simon, hang on a sec. I turned. He ditched the jacket, just the black shirt now, sleeves pushed higher. The polite host smile was gone, replaced by something tired, real. Want to take a walk? Before heading home, I nodded instantly. Yeah. We stepped outside into cool Florence night air. Wind off the Arno-carried river and old stone. We walked along Lungarno, quiet at first, just 2 guys from another lifetime side by side under sparse streetlights, golden reflections dancing on the water. Where you staying? He asked. Hotel near Santa Croce. You? Altrarno. With Luca. I nodded, swallowing the dumb question I almost asked. Are you happy? He'd already answered. We crossed Ponte alle Grazie, stopped to lean on the stone railing and watch the dark river. I didn't think you'd come to the show, he said quietly. Didn't think I'd see that dorm painting. I paused. It's beautiful. Hurts, but beautiful. He gave a soft huff of laughter. Painted it 2 years ago, right after I moved back here. Couldn't shake it. Then the sky darkened fast. A classic Italian summer downpour hit. Hard. Sudden. Like the city was being rinsed clean. People scattered for cover. Matt grabbed my sleeve and pulled me under the awning of a closed shop. Curved terracotta tiles shielding us somewhat. We stood close. Shoulders brushing. Rain hammering the roof overhead. Wet earth. River. Faint oil paint on his clothes. It all took me back to another stormy night long ago. Power out in that Nashville dorm. I turned to him. Rain had darkened a few strands of hair against his forehead. Streetlight gilded his face, those deep eyes unchanged. Matt, I said, voice rough from rain and everything else. I need to say some things. I've rehearsed them 1,000 times. But standing here, none of them feel like enough. He didn't speak, just waited. I didn't come here to beg you back. I know you've got your life now, Luca, Florence, everything you deserve. I just need to apologize. For real. I took a breath, rain still pounding around us. That year, I was cruel to hide my own fear. I called you an irresponsible clown, pushed you away, acted like you didn't matter because I was terrified of admitting I wanted what you had, freedom, truth, and you. I was scared of losing my family, my perfect image, everything. And I lost it all anyway. Lost you, lost myself. My eyes stung, rain or tears, I couldn't tell. That sketch you gave me at the airport, I've had it framed and hanging in the best spot in my house these 3 years. Every day it reminded me someone once saw the real me. Even when I was sick, vulnerable, asleep, that drawing gave me courage. When I finally told my dad and he cut me off, I thought of your note. Finally waking up. It was the only thing that pushed me to live openly. I stopped, voice shaking. I'm not asking forgiveness. I just need you to know I'm sorry. Not for losing you, but for hurting you. You didn't deserve those harsh words. Didn't deserve to cry alone that night. I'm sorry, Matt. From the bottom of my heart. The rain eased to a drizzle. Matt was quiet a long time, staring down at the dark river. Then he turned to me, voice low and measured. Thank you for saying that, Simon. I needed to hear it. He didn't add, I forgive you or it's okay. Just that. But in his eyes I saw an old weight lift. Not everything, but enough for both of us to breathe easier under the fading rain. We stayed a little longer until the rain stopped completely. Matt pushed wet hair back, gave me the first real smile since we'd reunited. Come on. I'll walk you back before you're soaked. I nodded. We continued along the wet cobblestones, silence lighter now. Under a freshly washed Florentine sky, my apology finally felt like it had landed where it belonged. Not completely late, even after 3 years. After the rain, Florence gleamed. We kept walking, no rush, like we both knew this might be the last time we'd ever talk like this. Matt led me through the quieter Altrarno streets where he lived. Then we stopped at a late-night cafe still open. He ordered espresso. I got a light red wine. We took a table outside under the damp awning. Warm streetlight glowing on the old wooden surface. I'd said what I needed under that awning. Now comfortable silence settled in. Matt stirred his coffee slowly, looked down, then up at me. You know, Simon, he started, voice steady. I've thought a lot about what you just said, and I appreciate you saying it. Really. I nodded, waiting. He wasn't done. But I need to be honest too. He took a breath. What you did back then, it left scars. Not the visible kind. The kind that make you doubt yourself every time someone gets close. My chest tightened. I'd known, but hearing it straight from him still cut. When I first got to Florence, he went on, it took me almost a year to believe I deserved to be loved without the risk of being thrown away. Every time someone showed interest, I thought, they'll change their mind. They'll decide I'm not enough or get scared and push me out. I built higher walls than you ever did. He gave a sad half smile. Luca was the first person I let in for real. He was patient, never pushed. But even with him, it took a long time to trust it was real. I looked down, fingers tight around my glass. I'm sorry, Matt. I know sorry doesn't erase scars, but I have to say it. I hurt you deeper than I realized. He nodded slowly. Yeah, you did. But you know what? Those scars taught me things too. Made me stronger, pickier, more grateful for the people who actually stay. We sat quietly, listening to a Vespa putter past, laughter drifting from a nearby bar. I'm not that carefree art kid from Vanderbilt anymore, he said softly. And you're not the terrified future lawyer living in fear. We've both changed, Simon. I looked at him and saw the truth of it. Matt was more confident, more lived in, faint laugh lines at his eyes. Marks of 3 years truly lived, truly loved, truly hurt. And me, even out and living openly in New Orleans, I'd still carried my own ghost. I think, I said carefully, loving someone sometimes means accepting you've become part of their past, not trying to force your way into their present. Just letting go at the right time and wishing them well. Matt looked at me a long moment, something gentle in his eyes. Yeah, exactly. He reached across the table, not to hold my hand, just a brief touch to my wrist. Comfort, nothing more. I forgive you, Simon. Not because you earned it overnight, but because I don't want to carry the anger anymore. I forgave myself first. Now you. Tears threatened, but I held them back. Thank you. We stayed a bit longer, talking lighter stuff, my work in New Orleans, his new paintings, how Luca makes killer pasta. No more weight, no more regret. Just two old friends under a clear post-rain Florentine sky. When we finally stood to part, Matt gave me a quick, firm hug. Friendly, nothing more. Take care of yourself, Simon. You too. I walked back to the hotel alone through damp streets. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel like I was running. The scars were still there, on both of us, but they'd healed into faint lines. Reminders, not chains. I learned reconciliation doesn't always mean getting back together. Sometimes it's just looking your past in the eye, saying goodbye, and letting both of you move on. My last day in Florence came too fast. Conference over, suitcase packed. Afternoon flight home. I stood at the hotel window watching red rooftops and the distant Duomo, wondering if I was really ready to leave the city that finally gave me the closure I'd waited 3 years for. Matt texted that morning, "Meet at the airport? Got something for you." I replied simply, "Sure, thanks." Perettala is small and friendly compared to American hubs. I got there early, sat at a cafe in Departures staring at the board. When he showed up pulling a large canvas bag, my heart raced again like that first reunion at the gallery. He wore a plain gray tee, jeans, hair wind-tousled. No Luca. Maybe he wanted this moment just for us. "Flight at 3, he asked, sitting across from me. "Yeah." He nodded, then slid the bag over. "For you." I opened it, hands unsteady. Inside was a carefully wrapped large roll. I unrolled it right there amid airport noise. It was a new portrait. Not me asleep, feverish, vulnerable like before. This time I stood tall under blazing New Orleans summer sun. He'd imagined it, or remembered from stories I'd told. White dress shirt with sleeves rolled, hands in pockets, eyes looking straight out, mouth curved in a quiet, easy smile. Not the forced grin of a terrified student, but the smile of a man finally comfortable in his own skin. Colors warm and alive, light caressing every line. Bottom right, Matteo V. And small lettering, "Already awake." I stared at it a long time, speechless. "That's you now," Matt said quietly. "Not the guy from 3 years ago. I want you to take this version home." I looked up, vision blurring. "Thank you. Seriously, this is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me." We stood when my flight was called. At security we stopped. Nothing left to say. Everything had been said in the rain, over coffee, in the silences between. Matt stepped close and hugged me. Not the clumsy hug of two scared college boys in a blackout. This was gentle but solid. The hug of two grown men who'd survived hurt and chosen forgiveness. I hugged back, breathing in that last faint trace of oil paint. "Safe flight, Simon," he whispered. "You too. Be happy. With Luca, with Florence, with everything." We let go. He smiled, eyes bright. I turned and walked through security without looking back. Not out of fear this time, but because I knew it was the right goodbye. The flight home was long, but I didn't sleep. I just watched clouds over the Atlantic and felt completely unburdened for the first time. The guilt I'd carried 3 years was finally set down. Not in Florence, but inside me. Back in New Orleans, warm southern drizzle greeted me. I dragged my suitcase home, opened the door to the familiar smell of old wood and bourbon, like coming home to an old friend. I hung the suitcase, then stood in front of the little fireplace. The old sketch was still there. Me asleep, face soft but still carrying the tension of hiding. I took it down gently. It had done its job. woke me up, gave me courage to live openly. I didn't need the reminder anymore. I hung the new portrait in its place. Me standing in sunlight, eyes forward, smiling. I stepped back and looked at it under the warm light of my little shotgun house. For the first time, I saw myself. Not the scared Vanderbilt kid. Not the guilty young lawyer in New Orleans, but the real Simon Caldwell. Awake, free, ready to love and be loved as I am. A few weeks later, I had my first real date with someone new. A photographer named Javier I met at a bar on Frenchman. We laughed, talked jazz and light and life, and when he took my hand walking home, I didn't pull away. I'd finally stepped out of the dark. And under the sunlight Matt painted for me, I knew I'd never go back.